Might come in there and break.
Or in Luby's. You remember back in the day, it was targeting Luby's. And you never.
Well, if it's meant to be,
Yeah.
it's not even true. You go walk, hey, look at you, walk the dog.
That's right. Sitting in the recovery class, waiting for the teacher to show.
It's your time.
Yeah.
Me and the doc here, we on borrowed time, Anthony.
Okay.
Not me. Not me. My God says that I can live to 120 years old.
My God told me I should be able to.
Well, what about 4 scores and
You know that?
Well, I don't know.
Three
But I
scores
do know
and
what the Word of God says. The Bible
That's
says
in the Word.
it
That's
has to be 120. I haven't found where it says 105 specifically.
Well, my
but I
grandfather
think-
died. My grandfather died at 105. So
Okay, that's your grandfather.
Yeah.
I received his sheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I got kept the T-shirt from my grandpa. That'll help.
Yeah, but you said 120. So.
Well, that's what the Bible says.
Okay.
You know, you can live.
That's a lot of it.
A man can live to 120 years old.
I believe that. So he can live up to 120, 105 is right. Like that.
105 is 18 years.
And I tell you something, I never said
You know, I know exactly when I'm going to die.
do you?
I think it's in the Lord God is ready for me to go home. He's been today. I think He wants me to finish this section. But it's His call. So when He calls me, guess what?
See, I just thought.
Be ready to go. All right, we got about.
When you can, yeah. Going. They say, so I did mine. Oh man. I do want to show you. Even the mine's outside. Here you go. Go outside. Hey. Got 2 minutes.
You want to speak for a minute?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Oh boy.
That's
I don't have to. That was just.
I'm not going to make you another top.
That's a big deal. Shame on you.
I make mine.
Shame on you.
Shame on the back. Didn't happen. Lucky day there, Richard. Merry Christmas.
For the shenanigans do it again.
You're done. I'm going to eat that cracker. I'll eat the cracker.
It's on my pork
Really?
got the 4 arms. It goes slow, and that wasn't nice. What's that I get into today?
You're getting ready to go find All right, gentlemen, it is group time.
Good morning, Bert.
All right, it's group time. So everybody knows what that means. You need that water? Huh? That water?
Oh, no.
Excuse me, sir. It's group time. So if you're going to sit outside a group, you're going to sit over here. You don't have a spot over there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But if we can, we need to sit in the group. There may not be a place over there. There may not be a place over there for you. But if there is, that's where we need to be. And we need to fill out our time sheets. I'm sorry, guys. Sign-in sheets. They'll be coming around.
There'll be a list, you know.
So make sure you sign in on the right sheet. There's HHSC and there's TAP. So make sure that you have the right sheet. Sign in on the right sheet as it comes on, and look, put your name on there legibly. We talk about that all of the time, but I need to be able to write. I need to be able to read your name so that I can give you credit for the group. I'm going to take, if I can't read your name, I'm going to take some time to try to figure that out. I'll put everybody else's name down first, and then I'll go and see if I can't figure it out. So I'm not going to spend all day on it. So just if you can't write it to where it's really legible, readable, then just put it in beside it, just kind of print it out beside it so I can get it. The other thing is we bring our books to group, right? Everybody got their book? All right, so if you don't have your book, what? We're gonna hold up group and wait till you go get a book. So you don't have a book? Get your book. All right, you have a book? All right, you have it with you? All right, yeah, go get it. And y'all bring them. And now look, I'm going to tell you, we've been doing this for about 5 minutes now, so everybody ought to know you bring your book. Because we shouldn't, and we're not going to hold up group for you guys that don't have them, but do bring your books to group. Now we're still on look. This week is about spirituality and all of that kind of stuff. And so what we're gonna continue on that vein, but we're also going to look at some other stuff too. Y'all notice the guy on the wall up here? What do you think he's doing?
Meditating.
He's meditating. Yeah, he's kind of got a blank stare, and I know you guys in the north can't see it very well, but he's got kind of a blank stare on there. What's he doing? Kind of dreaming about stuff. Kind of think he's got a motorcycle over here, and he's got a house, he's got a car, he's got some people, family over here. This is a beach cabin. And this is a place in the mountains where he wants to go one of these days. So what's all of that stuff there for? He's thinking about all that stuff, but he's going a little bit beyond that. What's he doing? He's making a goal. So today our secondary thing that we're going to talk about a little bit, I don't know how much of it we're going to get done. We may not get a lot of it done, but we are going to talk a little bit about goal setting. We need to have some goals in our recovery program, right? We need to have some goals in. So today we have a goal in our group. So what's our goal for the group? To learn. That's the goal every day, to learn. And if we're here to learn, what does that mean?
Gotta pay attention.
You got to pay a little bit of attention. Maybe we're not doing treatment plans. Maybe we're not reading some book that we bought to group with us. Maybe we're not having lunch. And maybe we're in group more than just. Okay, all right, thank you. Maybe we're focusing a little bit. Maybe we're kind of getting us a cup of coffee at break and stuff like just kind of, thinking outside the box, trying to get a little something out of it today. Today's Thursday. That's Friday Eve, right? That's a big, big deal. That's wonderful stuff. The week is kind of going down and getting down at the bottom of it, and that's a good point, and I like those things. But on page 21 in your book, it may not have a number, but if you go to page 20 and you look at the next page, that's what?
22.
That's 21. If you go to page 20 and you go one more page, that's page 21. So we're going to look at page 21 just for a moment. Now, if you're new, and we have a couple of new folks, if you're new, then we want you to start at the first page of the book and begin working through the book. Some of your treatment plans will have something on there that goes with the book. Usually, you're going to have something there. And so you work through that treatment plan with the book, right? Sir, you don't have a book? You don't have a book? You have one? Okay, great. Great. Page 21.
21?
21. But we can go all through the book. Now, as we're in here teaching, we're going to use the book sometimes. Sometimes we're not going to be explicitly in the book. But even if we're on page, we're over here on number 9 or 10 or 12 or something like that, then you stay, when the group is over, you can work through the group with us, and then you go back and start back at the first where you're supposed to be. Here's the deal. This thing works. We stay here about how long? About 6 weeks, maybe? We stay here in this program 4 to 6 weeks. The book goes how long?
12 weeks.
12 weeks. What does that tell you?
You got plenty of stuff to do.
You got plenty of stuff to do. If you finish the whole book while you're here, that's great. If you don't finish the whole book while you're here, what do? Take it home with you. We are at this point coming up with a book that's going to fit the program a little better, but until that time, take the book home with you. And when things get a little hairy out there, you can always go back to the book and say, this is what I need to study for today. So we're on Thursday, and at this point in the book, on the part down here where it says spiritual health, if you'll notice, we have 4 things there: physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, and then family health. So once a month, we're going to be going through one of those, and we may not stay particularly on that a whole bunch today. We're going to have a little bit of goals in mind. We're going to talk about that some. But today on the 4th one that we're looking at is over here that says, in my spiritual wall, I'm pretty confident. We went all the way up through unfamiliar and unwilling, confusion, tepid, and now today is confident. You're firm, you have a firm, or you are firm in a set of core spiritual beliefs. You know what you believe, right? And while you have room for improvement and deeper understanding, you are actively engaged in some type of spiritual health activity. What does that mean? That means you're going to church, you're doing some other things, and all of that kind of stuff. You're praying regularly, you may be studying the Bible, all of that. But look, you can still have a little bit more, a little deeper understanding of all that stuff. So yesterday, what did we study? Anybody remember?
Spirituality.
What did we study?
Spirituality.
Sign-in sheet. I don't know. It's up here somewhere. It goes around. we'll find it. That's not them. I mean, it's out there. That's not them. That's yesterday. But it should be out there somewhere. Yesterday, it's out here somewhere. Y'all, nobody has the sign-in sheet. You got it right there. When you get through signing in, give it to the man behind you. The man behind.
I didn't sign. Good.
This here's hard stuff. I'm gonna tell you. This is hard stuff. Just sign this down. All right. So yesterday, nobody remembers what we talked about yesterday. What was the last thing we talked about yesterday?
Spirituality.
Spirituality. That's correct. That's correct. We talked about yoga. We spent a whole long time talking about yoga. It's really uplifting to me and makes me really confident that I'm doing a really good job when nobody remembers anything that was said yesterday. So yeah. I just bet everybody at North Point over there remembers everything we said. Right? I say that about you guys when I'm over there. So look, I do want you to do that because going in the right direction.
We face the right direction.
You're facing okay. Yeah, some of them over there at North Point don't face the right direction, but we do that over here. So yeah, and they're all eating Pop-Tarts or something. Here's the deal at the end of the week, that's tomorrow. We're going to have a test over the spirituality concept. And it's not going to be hard. It's not really a test. It's an assessment. What you know about spirituality. And so we're gonna take a quick look at that tomorrow. So see if you can't get a little something that kind of sticks with you a little bit. One of the things that I don't know, we talk about it and we really share with folks that this is a really good idea, but I don't see a lot of it being done. And this is one of the ways that we can get to a spiritual place, and we're still focused on that a little bit. And y'all may not see it in this, but we'll talk about it just a little bit. An often overlooked practice for getting into some spirituality is journaling. What's journaling?
Writing stuff down.
Yeah, writing our experiences of the day down. Just, writing it down. A lot of people, I will tell you, the only journaling I ever see done really is when people are journaling in groups. And what that means is they're not paying attention to the group. They're not really in the group. They're journaling about something that happened, And whereas journaling is a real good activity that we should be getting ourselves involved in, we shouldn't really be journaling at inappropriate times. So when should we journal? When's a good time to journal?
At night.
At night, and when we're off, we have time in the morning to journal. I see people walking around doing absolutely nothing in the morning, but then come to group and journal all the whole time they're. So yes, it is wonderful to take notes. It is. It's fantastic to take notes. That just shows that you are engaged in the group and all of that stuff and working hard to advance the goal of the group. I encourage people to take notes. Take notes on the group. What's going on in the group. So far, we haven't started the group. So if you're journaling right now, you're not journaling about the group. You might be writing a letter to your mama, but you ain't journaling about this group. So anyway, journaling can be one of the best ways to experience spirituality. He lasted a whole 15 minutes in the group. Boom. So it can be one of the best ways to experience spirituality and parse out the meaning of experiencing or experiences. What is parse? P-A-R-S-E. What does that mean?
Parse it out, break it up into smaller.
Break it up into smaller little bitty pieces. Parse it out. It's a really good word, but it's a very old word. so people don't use that very often. But when we parse something out, we cut it up into little tiny pieces so that we can look at it better. And so that's what we're doing when we're journaling something. It helps us to get into a written state of mindfulness. Y'all remember what mindfulness is? What is it?
Being aware of your surroundings, what you're thinking,
Right.
what you're doing.
Being aware of the moment. What's going on in this moment. So if something happens and you journal about it, it helps you to get to that place where you can break it down into manageable pieces. What if somebody yells at you? We don't get yelled at around here a whole lot, right? Every now and then somebody will address negative behavior, and that's okay. That's supposed to be that way. We need structure, right? So, we don't get yelled at a lot, but if somebody yells at us or something, is it a good idea to journal that? Good idea to write that out, talk about not only what happened, but how we felt about what happened. Another good thing to put down in that journal is how I feel now about what happened then. Some of us can have whatever the issue is, we can have something happen today, and 2 weeks from now, we're still dealing with that. We were coming home from church last night. Was it last night? Yeah. And in Bridge City, our church is in Orange and coming through Bridge City, you know how they're building a plant over there, and there's thousands of people trying to get off work at the same time and go home. And when people turn on their turn signal and try to get into Walmart or some other place like that, people leave a little bit of room for them to cut through. That's driving courteously as we see it. We were doing that yesterday, and I laid back a little bit so this person could come through, and they started turning through, and a police officer pulled up beside it. And he sat beside us a few minutes, then he got up and blocked that person, rolled his window down, and did like that, you get back, and then he turned around, he looked at me, like, giving me an ugly look, and I'm going, I was a safety guy for 100 years. I always park back 4 or 5 feet away from the other car. That's how we trained to drive. So I said, okay, what are you looking at, boy? And, and then he turned into the driveway where the other guy was trying to go, and he took off, and this guy had to go somewhere else. And that really, really, really ticked my wife off. She was upset with that clip. I said, okay, all right, that may be against the law. I don't know. I'm going to research it. But cutting across traffic could cause a horrible accident. As they're cutting past me, they don't see who's coming this way. If they go on, boom, traffic is snarled for 2 days. So it's probably against the law. I don't know. I'm going to research it, but I'd be willing to bet a dime that it is against the law. And so he was just doing what? That's his job. Yes, sir.
I just want to say Bridge City police officers are not very nice people.
Well, this one, my wife has decided needs to go to hell. She decided he would. But the point is that, look, we were going, and for, I guess, 50 miles down the road, she's talking about, that cop was just mean. He was just nasty. He shouldn't have done it. Yeah, okay, all right. So the point I'm making is that when something happens, it can carry on. It can go on. Yes, sir.
What I'm going to say, what you did, I do it all the time. It's just common courtesy.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking.
But normally, when I see them trying to go to the next lane, I'll make sure I be already checked. The next lane available to me.
Yeah.
I can tell them good.
Right.
It's just a common courtesy.
It seems to be a common courtesy. I'm going to tell you that we're still going to practice that, but if it's against the law, it's against the law, whether we're just trying to be courteous or not. So whatever happens to us, like that happened yesterday, journaling it, putting it down on paper can help us to parse it out so we can see, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened, and it can help me not be angry with this police officer over the fact that he was doing his job. Now, he was a little bit aggressive about doing his job, and when you give somebody a badge and somebody a gun, they can get a little aggressive, right? They can get a little bit, I'm the authority. Oh, okay. Some of them do that, and he possibly could have done it in a better manner. But he was right in the middle of all that traffic and everything, and he saw what that could have caused. Anyway, we parsed it out so we can see what's going on. Okay. It was not. Was that a big deal?
No.
Yeah. It wasn't going to cost anybody their life. This person was.
It could have turned into a big.
Well, it could have. If he had pulled in front of somebody or something like that, it could have turned into a big deal. It didn't turn into a big deal, and probably if the officer had stopped and let that person through, it still wouldn't have been a big deal. But then he would have been breaking the law, right? And not doing his job and really being a bad cop. So he's supposed to do his job. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you made a good point on that part. But, hypothetically speaking, when he did this, shook his finger and told him to bag back. But when he bagged back, somebody put it up.
Well, he was in the turning lane. He had plenty of room to back up and get back out of the way. Here's the deal. When we parse it out, what do? We find out that, it's not about what he did. It's about how I feel about it.
Right.
Yeah, and here's the deal. Are there laws out there that you disagree with? Yeah, there's a lot of laws out there that I disagree with. I get on there's a place there between where's that? Port Arthur and Highway 73 where you have to go 40 miles an hour. It's a 4-lane highway. So you're creeping along it. I completely disagree with that. Does that take that law out?
No.
Does that make that of no account? No. About 10 years ago, I was running down that road, and the policeman stopped me. I was doing 60 miles an hour. And I had just come from the other road. If you go through that stop sign there, that stop light, this side of that stop light is 60 miles an hour. This side of that stop light is 40. So I told him the light was green. I came through from the 60 mile an hour zone and ran into the 40 mile an hour zone, and that's where you were sitting. And they didn't give me a ticket or anything. Old boy said, well, you're right. I said, yeah, I was slowing down, to get into your ridiculously slow portion. But the fact is that if I don't agree with it, that doesn't make any difference. Used to be a sign all over the place. I haven't seen it in a long time. And it said, ignorance is no excuse. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. But also, if I disagree with the law, it's no excuse. But the point is that if something like that happens, and she wouldn't do it, and I didn't recommend it, but if we have something like that happen and we journal it, then we can break it down into little bitty pieces, and we can take a look at what happened, and we can be okay with it in our own minds, and that helps us. Because here's the deal, if I'm mad at the police all the time, guess what happens?
You just get frustrated, you're angry all the time.
I'm angry at the police all the time. The next time I get stopped, I'm going to smart off. I'm going to do something. I'm going to run my head.
Never works out.
Yeah.
Never works out good for us. And, when I get stopped, I'm the nicest person those people have ever met. And I do support the police because I will tell you this, if there weren't for police officers out there, you couldn't go anywhere or do anything. You couldn't walk down here and go to the store. You couldn't do that. You couldn't drive your car. You couldn't live at your house. You'd have to be barricaded in. So, All right, so journaling, back to journaling. Let me get back on here. Setting aside time every day to contemplate the daily events can help you reconnect with your inner life, better understand your own thoughts and feelings, and remain mindful throughout the day. One of the things I do journal a little bit, but one of the things I do is I go back over what I did that day as I'm traveling home. I live pretty far from here, so it takes me a minute to get back home. And so I'm thinking about the things. I want to look at how well I did what I did that day. How many things was that a productive day, or was it not a productive day? Did I do what I set out to do that day, or did I not set out? Did I not get that stuff done? I want to be able to make sure that I at least got done what I thought I needed to get done for the day, right? And I go back over it and all of that kind of stuff. Now, if there's something that happens that's out of the norm, in this group, I've had people want to get in my face. I had a young man want to get in my face right over there a few months back, and I go over that. I wanted to know, what did I want to know from my rehashing of that issue? How not to have it happen again? Yeah, that's one of them. I also wanted to know, the first thing I wanted to know, what was my part in that?
That's happening.
Yeah, what was my part? Did I say something? Did I do something? Were there some mannerisms that I used that day that might make that person be angry at me? Is that a possibility?
Yes.
Sure. We're all human beings, and sometimes I'll say stuff that somebody might take the wrong way, right? And then they would be angry at me, and they would be upset at me. And it's a rare time. Sometimes I hurt people's feelings with, not meaning to at all. I certainly don't want to do that. What I want to do is just give you some information that might help you. If it doesn't help you, it's just obvious because nobody knows what I said. So that's that's all right. So I don't want to do that. And if I do that, I want to break that down and know that that's what happened.
You also reflect back on what you could have done
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. What could I have done differently? That when I get to the place where I figure out it's okay, possibly, maybe it could have been my fault. I could have been the genesis of that. I could have been the one that started him on that. But as I looked at that situation, that wasn't true. It wasn't me at all. He was already upset with somebody else, and he was angry about situations, or maybe the food wasn't good enough for him, or the bed bugs didn't like him, or whatever. And so he's going to attack the first person he could that had any that was in a place of authority or anything like that. So at that point, when I got to the place where I figured out, it wasn't me. It was whatever had happened in the rest of the day for him. Then I could let that go. I don't need to fool it because I don't need to change anything that I did that day. And the next day, he was walking in the door, and I was walking out the door, and we had a very brief, it wasn't long, but we had a very brief interchange at that point, and it was, okay, sorry about all of that, and, I didn't mean, okay. And it didn't take but just 2 seconds, but it didn't escalate, it didn't go anywhere else. Because I'm thinking he had at least thought about it. It would have been a great thing had he journaled that because he needed to. And so, and we don't look at journaling like that. I had a person I was talking about journaling at one point, and they said they didn't have time to do all that work. So we look at journaling sometimes as just extra work, right? And journaling is not. It should not be seen as extra work. It should be seen as work. What it should be seen as is therapeutic. What I'm doing is my own therapy. Right. Right. I'm doing my own work on myself, doing my own therapy, and that's a big deal. Because if you want to come out of here, and go find a therapist out there, is that going to cost you? Oh yeah, that's going to cost you. And so, if you can be your own therapist, maybe you save a little bit of money. So this is going to help you to do things like understand your own thoughts. Why am I like that? Why am I doing that? Why am I angry about something like that? Why does that frustrate me? You know, it helps us get to that place where we understand our own thoughts a little bit and my feelings about those things. Because I tell you what, do you know, and I'm sure everybody knows, we've been through the class, but our thoughts are connected to our feelings. Our feelings are connected to our thoughts. If I think something, then that elicits a feeling in me, right? And it does you too, right? Because you're a human being.
So man, think of that in
Oh yeah, as a man thinketh, so he is. But and that God put that in us. So my thought life is going to decide my emotional life a lot. You know, and when I'm looking and somebody's out here, they're doing whatever, and they're sleeping in my group, or they're writing and doing something different, or they're giggling and laughing with one another, then in my thought life, it tells me, well, they don't care about the group at all. They're not paying any attention at all. Even the fact that I went and did all of this research and all of this stuff, and I put it out today. I asked, what did we study yesterday, and that boom. And nobody had any idea. So that's the thought in my mind. So what feeling does that elicit?
Frustration.
What is it?
Frustration.
It does. It can elicit frustration. It can also just hurt my feelings. What do you got?
Okay, like you just said, like you say, he's sleeping or he's doing whatever he's doing. Okay, now in your thought process, that's a choice you have to make. That's where the stinking thinking comes in. Either you're gonna have a negative thought, or you're gonna let his negative, it's gonna be negative or positive. You're gonna let his negative situation work out your situation.
And that's a possibility, and you can. But what it does do, absolutely, is elicit a feeling of some type in you. And in my own personal situation, it elicits a tiny feeling, and that hurts my feeling. Yeah, it hurts my feeling. And then, of course, it does lead to frustration. You had something?
uselessness. Makes you feel useless.
Makes you feel useless? Yeah, I did all this work and you don't want to hear about it?
Yeah, most people don't know how to identify that they've been.
Yeah, that's true.
Say something or do something towards them. First thing they want to react and say, they piss me off, I'm angry.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that they feel it's got hurt.
Well, yeah, absolutely. See, we've talked about that too when we study anger. Anger is a secondary emotion. And so you're right. Usually with guys, it's fear. We're afraid of something, and that we'll display that as anger. Or if you hurt my feelings, instead of saying, hey, you guys, y'all hurt my feelings, won't you just kiss my foot, suck the slime out between my toes? We get a little angry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what
It's kind of like they say program of Alcoholics Anonymous, whenever I was first going through it. When you turn your wheel over the thought of it, turn your wheel over to carry God's understanding. It's over the place that with will is your thoughts and your actions. Turn my thoughts and actions. Will is your thoughts and your actions.
Right. Your thoughts will be, and we've talked about that probably 1,000 times. We're talking about my thoughts becoming my action. My belief system drives my thinking, which drives my actions. And so whatever you're doing, and this is why sometimes, I've studied that stuff for 40 years now, and sometimes it's problematic because I can see that stuff. And we know that our belief system drives our thinking, which drives our actions. And if your actions are this, then we know that that's how you're thinking, and we know that's your belief system. So if somebody is completely nonplussed, if somebody's completely out of the group, if somebody's not paying any attention at all, then that's their action. They're thinking, look, I'm not going to get anything out of this. And their belief system is, I don't have to be here. They can't tell me anything. So that is exactly what's going on. That's why when I watch actions that go on, I know where they're coming from. That's a belief system. It's okay for me to sleep in group because I ain't getting nothing out of it anyway. And then you prove it when I say, what did we study yesterday? I was asleep. Yeah, I'm sorry. So anyway, So it can do that. It can make it easier to sympathize with other people too. If you take time to think about it, like when people just walk out of group, you can sympathize with that. Maybe I hurt that person's feelings, or maybe that person got to go potty real bad and don't have time to say, "Can I get out of group?" Or maybe they can't hold it for the next 20 minutes. You never. There may be a medical thing there. Maybe you need to be able to sympathize with other people, right? Man, I don't know what he's cooking in there, but I want some of that. And I have.
Talking about one thing, your thoughts.
Yeah, my thoughts. Yeah, that's because I'm being distracted. We need to talk to him about that. But see, I haven't had any breakfast or anything. I have a meeting with my doctor at 3:00 this afternoon, and I can't eat anything until then. That's gonna be hard. So it can make us easier to empathize with others instead of taking to heart small ways others hurt you. Then it's just a small thing. When you get around to thinking about it, it's just a little bitty thing. It's not that big a deal. However, those little bitty things can become a big hurt in your life if you allow them to do that. And so we need to be at a place where we can not allow little bitty things to bother us, right? But sometimes they do. It helps us to be able to journal those things, right? So I had someone, I'm not going to tell you who it was, but I had someone tell me yesterday that I was snide. Snide, that person said to me. She said, "You're just snide in the way you talk to people. You're just snide." And I asked them, I said, you know what snide means? And they said, "Well, maybe." And so we looked it up in the dictionary, and it's a real bad thing. It ain't good. It's nasty. It's just negative, derogatory speech and all of that. I said, "Now, is that what you think I do?" And that person said, "Yep, pretty much. That's it. You do all that. You snide." All right. All right. So here's the deal. Instead of taking to heart all of those small ways that other people hurt your feelings, journaling gives you the space to consider the greater context of their motivation. And do we consider the other person's motivations most of the time? No, you hurt my feelings. I don't care why you hurt my feelings or why you wanted to hurt my feelings. You still hurt my feelings. Whether it was intentional or not, whether you have taken medication that makes you go to sleep in the group, whether you just don't, whatever. I need to get to the place where some of that stuff is not going to bother me. And, I have gotten to the place where it doesn't bother me nearly as bad as it used to be. I used to have my own facility, and we'd kick people out. If you want to sleep in group, just get your stuff together and go on out. Because you're here for a reason. And the reason is to get some of this stuff we're putting out. And if you don't want it, there's somebody else waiting on your seat. This program is different. Yes.
But some of us do take medication.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. People do take medication and put you to sleep. So what do you do?
So you don't have a high tolerance.
Yeah, absolutely. There, absolutely. I had a client that was taking medication for something, and man, it put him to sleep. I mean, he as soon as he sat down, he'd go to sleep. So what did he do? He stood up in the back. He would walk back and forth because he wanted to get something out of it. And that's what he did. So we need to understand that. It gives us time to take a look at that. Is that person really being disrespectful? Is that person really outside the group? Is that person really not caring? Is that, we need to take a look at that other person's motivation. So how about when somebody comes in early in the morning and you're saying hello to them or something, they snap at you? You ever had that happen? I heard a saying a long time ago, everybody has the right to have a bad day. Everybody has a right to have a bad day. You know, but we shouldn't be having a bad day all the time, and we shouldn't be using that bad day as an excuse to make you have a bad day. But everybody, and that's true. Everybody has a right to have a bad day every now and then, but you don't have the right to give it to me. So, taking a good look at the motivations, figuring out what's going on, making it easier. Journaling makes it easier to empathize, to get into their mind, into their heart, and feel what's going on with the root of their actions. Now, I need to know why you know, before I get angry at you, before I turn you in, before I write you up, before I don't give you credit for the group and all of that kind of stuff. I need to figure out what your motivations are. Why are you really doing that? You may be at a place intellectually where you just cannot engage in the group. Yes?
I'm waving goodbye.
Oh, you're just waving by it? He was catching something because he's sleeping, and then he went to sleep right behind him. So I guess it's contagious. So anyway, in this way, journaling helps you treat yourself and others, and maybe even the whole entire world more gently. Do you believe that it would be a little bit better in the group and in the program and all of that if I treated everybody a little bit more gently? You think? You think so? Look. Okay. All right. I'm going to be more kinder and gentler and sweeter. Nice, kind, good, and sweet. Here's the deal. I will if you will. I will if you will. If you're more gentle toward my feeling, I will be more gentle toward yours. Right? Right? Just like, I worked at the prison all those years to receive respect. What do you have to do? Got to give it to get it. That's exactly right. That's the first thing you learn. You want to be respected out here, you give it to get it. That's it. You respect me, I'll respect you. Otherwise, that's the way it is. So here's some of the things. Taking a few minutes every day to write about your experiences can help these things. And this is good. Now remember, we're using journaling, just writing down our feelings and our experiences and how the experiences connect us to our feelings. They do these things. It makes sense. It helps us to make sense of difficult experiences. So let me share this with you. As long as we're alive, we have experiences. Right? This morning, you are experiencing group. Some of you more cognitively than others, but you are experiencing group. And so it's going to help you make sense of what you're experiencing. And as you go through life, every day is going to be a series of experiences, right? Some of those experiences are not going to be great. Some of those experiences are going to be fantastic. Other experiences are going to be just kind of, no big deal. It's just right here. But it's going to help you to learn how to deal with those experiences. And look, I'm writing all this stuff down when the next one's coming. When you see that other person coming doing something, that there's, see, you just know it. There's somebody going to come dragging a chair in and throw it in the group just to disrupt the group. They're just going to do that. I'm sure that the ladies sit in their office in there and they discuss, how can we disrupt his group? What would we be able to do? Other than just walking back and forth, and what can we do extra? That's an experience. So on the way home, I'm going to write that down in my mental place there. Why on earth would she? The chair wasn't, I know for a fact the chair wasn't sitting back there saying, take me to group, please take me to group, I need to go to group, I want to go to group.
That chair does that, though.
That chair, it's a talking chair, I don't know. Yes.
I just want to say that I've learned a lot in this group already.
That's what that person that told me I was tired, that's what they were talking about. That kind of stuff right there. And so I'm going to write that down. Yes, sir, you have something?
I don't think it was intentional. Like, shit.
Say it again.
I don't think it was intentional.
Oh, you see, yeah.
So then, at that point, you might say, well, am I carrying my feelings?
Well, you know, and yes, and when you look at something like that, did that really disrupt the group? Did her bringing that chair in here really disrupt the group? It did to a certain extent. It did. And one of the issues that I really have with stuff like that is people don't think that out. People don't think that when they come in and do something, yeah, pick it up or leave it alone. Leave it alone till break time or leave it alone till group is over. Just leave it alone. You know, that would be the bit. But people don't think that out. They don't think that out at all. So it did disrupt the group. But what disrupted the group more?
I can say right now.
No, what right now disrupted the group more?
What you talking about?
Me. Yeah, I disrupted the group a lot. A lot. You know, to point that out. Yes, I did.
So that means that Phyllis is on your shoulder.
Say it again.
That means your Phyllis is on your shoulder.
Oh yeah, it hurt my feeling. That's exactly what we were talking about. So if that hurt my feelings though, what should I do?
Carry on.
I should journal it. I should write it out. It gives me a chance to do what? Break it down into little pieces. Figure out why that hurt my feelings.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
Totally, because it just, I don't say it proved it, but that was a man on the short attention span for him to get distracted. That great.
Hey, we agree to disagree.
All right, let's move on. So this helps us to make sense of some difficult experiences that happen. You know, because here's the thing. And this lady brought the chair in here, and this is some people just don't think.
I do a lot of journaling.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
How many times is my name?
And I do a lot of journaling. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. We do a lot of journaling. What do you think the ladies?
What do I think the ladies are doing?
On the other side.
So what is that? That's a bigger disruption than the chair. What do you think the girls are doing?
No, I'm just saying. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
I have no idea. I do know that they're a better group than this one. Let's move to the next point. The next point. The next.
Smell gas, I smell gas.
Do I smell gas?
Whoever smells it.
What are the girls doing? And is there a possibility that they smell gas?
There's a gas in it. I smell it.
I don't smell gas.
That's good shit.
If there's an explosion, we'll and see this is why journaling helps you with the next point. Journaling will help you with managing your anxiety. So if you are having anxiety because the room is filling with noxious fume, you should write that out somewhere before you pass out. Right? And look, things cause us some anxiety. And if you write them out, it will help you deal with that anxiety. One of the biggest things that gets us as human beings is anxiety. We have we get anxious about a lot of stuff. And what does anxiety cause? Stress. And stress causes heart attacks and strokes. And look, isn't it an amazing thing that just writing it out will help us get to a place where we avoid heart attacks and strokes and stuff like that? So just write it out. And if you have a heart attack or a stroke, we'll know you haven't been journaling. Right? So another thing is, look, it helps us to deal with mental health issues. I don't think that's gas you're smelling. I think that's the lunch you're smelling. It smells like gas.
That's going to trigger
that. So look, journaling will help us to cope with mental health issues. When we have a comorbid thing, I can't say the word now. But we have folks to journal and talk about things. We have a journaling thing in our smoking cessation class. Not here. We just talk, and nobody listens at all. Because right at the, we can talk about smoking cessation, and we'll be doing that before too long. And right when we get right in the middle of it, we take a break, and everybody goes out and smokes. So nobody listens to it. But in the one that we do at my own facility, we have a journaling thing. This is what you have to do. You have to journal about this, and it will help you. What is the good points of me smoking? What's the good thing about smoking? There's none. It does reduce anxiety. It keeps a lot of people employed. All of those people who are making the cigarettes, they have employment. All of those doctors who are trying to treat the garbage the cigarettes are causing in your life, they're employed. So those are the best things about that. But it helps.
It cuts your appetite.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll do that.
Rich doctors.
Say that again?
Rich doctors from it.
Which doctors?
Rich doctors.
Rich doctors?
Yeah.
Well, not all doctors. Look.
Yeah.
Look, not all doctors. I'm a doctor. I hold an earned doctorate degree. And I have that, I looked at my bank account the other day, and there's just barely over 3 million in there. So it's just 3.1, 3.12, I think. So it's just barely. So I'm not rich. I just have enough money to.
I got you.
Y'all, and if you believe that, everybody believes that needs to give me a dollar bill. So here's the deal. It will help us to cope with mental health issues such as depression. And look, this is a big deal. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Is anybody here a veteran? You ever been over to the vet administration over there?
Not yet.
You have to let them help you with PTSD. What do they do?
Prescribe you meds.
One of the therapist will tell you, I need you to sit down and write about your experience. Write about your experience. I just want. Why do they do that? Because they want to know about your experience. You know what else? When you come in here, one of the big things, we don't do it as much as we used to in my facility. We do it every time with every person. We have them write out their life story. And they share their life story. Why? It's a form of journaling. And it helps us get to the place where we talk about all of the crazy crap that's happened in our life. What happened to me as a child was completely inappropriate. I shouldn't have had to live in vacant houses. I shouldn't have been hungry. Shouldn't have gone through 2 or 3 days with no food. I shouldn't have had to go to school with no socks or shoes and clothing that was just a wreck. I shouldn't have had to do those things. But see, all of that journaling, pulling that thing out, got me to a place where I could tear it down into little bitty pieces, take a look at it, and understand what was going on. So what was going on? My dad was an alcoholic. Now, so it helps us with all of that kind of stuff, and the fact that we can get it out, look at it, talk about it, is very, very helpful. It's good for us to be able to do that. It reduces stress. Journaling can reduce stress. Why is that? You can get your anger, your hurt feelings, and everything else out on a piece of paper. And that's great. It's wonderful. So when we lower the stress, all of those diseases that stress causes are no longer an issue. So just writing it down is going to help us all of that. Exercise is good for stress as well, right? Do we exercise enough? Nobody exercises enough. I went and worked out this morning, and that kind of I worked out a little more than I usually do, so it hurt my attitude a little bit because I'm tired. And you know, I started this morning a new program where I'm working my stomach. Oh my goodness. So, good man. So, it helps us to cope with mental health issues. It's going to reduce our stress. It helps us to prioritize problems. How many of us have problems, issues, things, stuff in our life? You know, all of us do. We all have some of those things that's going on. When I journal those things and I put them down on a piece of paper, they become more manageable because they become more real. And I can take this one and say, this one is not as important as that one. And so I'm going to put this one on top of that one. I'm going to deal with that one. When I deal with that one, this one will be dealt with. Yeah. Yeah. Make that whole big pole of it. Yeah. So that's a good thing. You know, so that's going to help us again with that stress. We're going to prioritize our problem, our fears, and concerns. What are we afraid of? I love it when I talk to guys in our anger management program, and I tell them, you know, the biggest thing that causes guys to be angry all the time is fear. And they'll poke their little bitty chest out, so I ain't scared of nothing. And so the other problem you have is you're a liar. You know, everybody's scared of something. You know, I don't particularly like rattling snakes, right? If there's a rattling snake in here, guess what? I'm not going to be in here. me and rattling snakes, we don't stay together. You know, I mean, he can have it. You know, so if one comes running over yonder, I'm going to go running that way. You know, so I'm not saying I'm scared of them because I'm a guy. Guys ain't scared of nothing. But rattling snakes, I just don't like them. You know, so say it again. Okay, y'all ever been to Freer, Texas? In Freer, Texas, that place is at the end of the world, and then you turn left at the end of the world and go down this hill, and there's Freer. You know, they have every year a rattlesnake roundup. Oh my God! If you don't like rattling snakes, don't go down there. Don't, man. Before you get there, you can hear them rattling 40 miles, and they got them all. You walk into a store, live rattling snakes are hanging from the ceiling all over the place. It's just terrible. And they got guys walking around with croaker sacks. And they I got 2 rattling snakes in here. You want to buy? I don't want to buy a snake. I don't want to buy your rattlesnake. And then they got a big old tub thing out there, big old corral-like thing, and there's a guy in there poking that rattlesnake. And then he comes over to the side and he'll show you his arm. He say, "That was where a rattlesnake got me back in 02, and over here one got me back in 14, and down here on that affected your brain. Being bitten by rattling snakes affected your brain. And then you have the smell of rattlesnakes being cooked. And people around there with chunks of rattlesnakes. Yeah, and that's what tastes just like chicken. I'll eat the chicken, you eat the rattlesnake. The chicken, yeah. And people say the rattlesnake just like chicken. I don't know how y'all know that. Maybe the chicken tastes like rattlesnake. You know, never thought of that. All right, so it's going to help us with that. It's going to show us what our fears are. It's going to help us with our concern. If I can write all the things down that's going on in my life, I can pinpoint some of the stuff that I need to get out of my life. That's an inordinate fear. That's something that's just ought not have to be a problem for me. You know, actually, that shouldn't be a problem for anybody. So if it shouldn't be a problem for anybody, why is it a problem for me? Yeah. So identify negative behaviors. Identify negative thoughts. Do you have any negative behaviors? No. You guys don't have any. There might be a couple of negative behaviors. You don't have any?
No, I'm saying we all do.
We all do.
Well, if you just say behavior, you have a negative thought, would that qualify as behavior?
Yeah. We have, look, even if we're not showing the behavior, right, then those negative thoughts are there. And usually, you remember we said our thoughts drive our action. So if I'm having a negative thought, then that negative thought is going to lead me to do things I might not ought to be doing. So if I can write that down, if I write down what I'm doing, I can maybe pinpoint, well, that's a negative thought. You know, that's something that I'm doing that's negative. You know, and here's one of my negative things is calling down everything that happens in group negative. Is that a negative thing?
Yeah.
Sure it is. Sure it is. So I need to deal with that. We have 30 seconds. So let me tell you this. This is look, journaling will help you understand yourself and other people. It can do that. It's going to help me understand myself and other people because I'm putting all this stuff down and I'm talking about it and I'm thinking about it and all that. Thank you for paying such close attention, and we'll take a 15-minute break and be back.
Over here. Here. Two of them, that's it. That's all you get. How come that?
I'm so glad I'm past that. So glad I'm past that.
Cigarettes. Same drinks? Okay. Any personal color? Later? Okay. All right. Just let me know first whatever you need now. Have everything free. Later. Appreciate it. Ain't doing good. Oh, Got good brakes. Couple brakes. Yeah, I'll tell you. Bert, where are you, Bert? Looking for you. Bert! Here, puppy. Hey! Yeah,
Alrighty then. Time to start back. I can see the whole group is here.
well, the military.
Yeah, on point.
So I
Thank you.
So what we going with it?
Appreciate you getting back in here, folks over at North, please.
That guy in the foxhole, and I didn't want these guys.
So folks over at North, make sure that you get your sign-in sheets turned in. And I will be over there later this afternoon to pick them up and get them to it. Oh, yeah. So, one of the things that we need to do is we've been talking about spirituality this whole week. So one of the things that we need to do is to talk about putting spirituality into our recovery. Spirituality should be a really large part of our recovery. So if we do that, it's going to be helpful for us. Now here's the deal. The causes of addiction are really complex and they are multifaceted. So as the people who experience it, are multifaceted. So is the addiction itself. We develop substance use disorders for a lot of different reasons. There's all sorts of trauma, childhood trauma, just using the drug, trying to change our mood, not enjoying who we are, trying to change our reality. You really can't change your reality, but you can change how you feel about that by the use of your drug. So here's the deal. Addiction often stems from that place of emptiness, dissatisfaction, or trauma. Drugs and alcohol provide an escape from life's hardships. So that's what we're doing. A lot of times it's escapism, to use something that is mood altering, to change our mood, to change the way that we feel. We want to get some temporary solace, and that's the place that we can do that. There's no true satisfaction or safety in substance abuse.
Almost had one.
Almost had one.
That close.
That close. Yeah. Recovery, though, is an opportunity for people to re-examine their beliefs, live life in a new, more meaningful way. That search for meaning and greater purpose is essentially participating in a spiritual journey. So people can choose to describe it in a whole bunch of different terms, but that's what it really is. By participating in spiritual activities throughout those formative times, individuals in recovery can build a solid foundation of meaning to fall back on in difficult times. So, and if you don't do that, you will die.
What's that?
Be in the group to find out. The most common examples of structured spirituality in recovery are the 12-step program. All of the 12-step programs have spirituality in place in them. One of the biggest problems that we encounter in AA and NA and stuff like that is people who have a problem with spirituality. And a lot of folks have a problem with the God concept, so they don't want to do that. Most Alcoholics Anonymous has it, Narcotics Anonymous have it. These programs outline a step-by-step process of spiritual transformation. And we look at AA and we look at NA and we look at all of those things, and if you'll go to an NA group or an AA group, you're going to notice that there is the 12 steps are usually on the wall. At our group, we have the 12 steps on the wall. We also have a deal like this with the 12 steps on it in the hallway as you head down to the meeting room. So they're prominent. They're there. And a lot of times we learn, this is what the 12 steps are. We learn to recite the 12 steps and all of that kind of stuff. But what we don't do is look at each one as a spiritual journey. And each one of these steps is indeed a spiritual journey. It takes us off from this point and takes us all the way up to this point. And each one of them is spiritual in nature, and we need to take a look at it. So we'll do it real quickly. We'll get through this. Step one. Everybody knows step one, right? Admitting your powerlessness over drugs and alcohol. Right? We just have to admit that we're powerless over drugs and alcohol. How's that spiritual in nature?
How's it spiritual in nature?
How is that spiritual in nature?
Well, it's admitting that you have a problem with it.
Yeah, it means that there's a problem that I can't do anything. I'm powerless. I'm powerless over that. I can't do that. What's the rest of that? My life has become unmanageable. What that means to me that I can't manage my own life.
Out of control.
It's out of control. I'm powerless over this. I don't have enough power. I don't have enough authority. I don't have enough of anything. I can't do this. So
I'm powerless over it. And my life has become unmanageable. So I'm powerless and I cannot manage my own life. So that tells me that I need some help from someone who is more powerful than I. Like a higher power. Yeah. So that's how step one is spiritual in nature. 2 says, look, believe, and this is not verbatim, okay? This is just easily written out so I can do it easily. Believing that a power greater than ourselves can help us recover. What does it say in the big book, really?
And to believe that a power greater than ourselves restores the sanity.
Believing that a power greater than ourselves can restore sanity. Okay. So believing that there's a power greater than myself is what? Spiritual in nature. If I'm believing that there's a power greater than myself, then I need to have a higher power. And there's all sorts of ways for us to get around the God thing. We can believe in the doorknob. We can believe in the group. We can believe in whatever. I believe the Lord Jesus Christ is my higher power. I know He is. He's my higher power. So that's where I am with the higher power. But here's the deal. If you need to use the group for a minute because you're afraid of God or you just don't believe that way or whatever, because what is the group trying to do? What's the AA group trying to do? What is it? Help you? Help you what? Help you stay sober. Help you get into recovery. It's not church. It's not church. So the higher power concept is just to understand that there's something greater than you that can help you. Right? Can help you. Because it's not church. Again, it's a group of what we say in our group, drunks helping drunks. Yeah. A group of drunks helping drunks. That's what we do. So that's what that's about. But we have to have a higher power because if we don't, our walk through recovery is not going to go very far. Yes?
I just want to say this. Everybody has been speaking about higher power. I believe God and higher power. But I have one disagreement when it comes to AA, some of the reading stuff that we're reading. Okay, my disagreement is once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
Okay.
That's my disagreement. Because, say, as a child, I started drinking. I drank all the way up until I was 20. Now, just say God let me still on this earth till I'm 100 years old. I stopped drinking at 20. I've been sober 80 years. You're not going to convince me I'm still alcoholic. I ain't had 80 years.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, and that's your business, right? I do know what you're saying. Here's the deal.
That's just my belief.
Yeah, and that's great. Your belief is your belief, and here's the deal. What he was saying is he doesn't believe that once an alcoholic's always an alcoholic. I happen to hold that same belief. I believe that if you actually contract the disease of alcoholism, it's incurable. You can't get rid of that. It's just like AIDS. If you get a hold of AIDS, it's incurable. You can't get rid of that. If you get a hold of cancer, at this point, it's incurable. You can't get rid of that. If you got it, you got it. That's all there is to it. Now, here's the deal. I happen to believe that God, the great healer, can take it away from you.
Amen.
I believe that. But here's the deal. If he said he started drinking when he was 8, and he kept drinking until he was 20, and he actually caught the disease of alcoholism. He's actually an alcoholic, actually an addict. And he don't drink, he don't use again for another 80 years. And he believes he's cured. So here's the deal. You don't have to call yourself an alcoholic or all of that stuff, but if you have that disease, there's a thing in the middle of your umdala. And it's,
Medulla oblongata.
that's what it said again?
Medulla oblongata.
Medulla oblongata. That's what he said. And there's a little thing in there, a little tiny thing that alcohol brings in and puts in there. And alcohol puts it in itself, but other drugs, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, all of those things, they cause your body to manufacture it itself. It's called tetrahydroquinone. Now we call it FIG because tetrahydroquinone kind of hard to say. Yeah, so we call it FIG. And here's the deal: FIG, when you quit drinking, when you quit using, FIG goes to sleep. And it's a microscopic thing in the middle of your medulla oblongata, and it goes to sleep up there. The day you drink one beer, then it wakes the tetrahydroquinone back up. And the problem is that you're at the same level of addiction you were when you quit using. You're not at the same level of tolerance, but you're at the same level of addiction. We lose a lot of people at that place because they'll go out and use what they were using when they quit using, and they overdose and they die. Now, you said something. What you, real quick? I was talking about something, and you said, so what did you have? Method. I just said this. Alcohol brings it in. Alcohol has it in it. Okay? And it brings it in. All other drugs make the body manufacture it. So yeah, methamphetamines is a drug. So yeah, it makes it manufactured. Yeah.
See, that's something new to me. I never heard of it.
Okay.
Learned something today because we was always taught it was the dopamine to give you the release that sensation.
That's that is true. It is. That's what happens when you use the drug. It releases endorphins into your body, and those endorphins get you high and all of that kind of stuff. You know. But the thing that keeps you addicted for the rest of your life is that. And here's the deal: if you actually have the disease, alcoholism or addiction, and you go for 80 years without drinking, and you decide you want to have something, and you go ahead and have something, your belief system saying that, hey, that's my belief system, that I'm not an alcoholic, but you are one, do you relapse at that point in time?
Yes.
Well, of course you do. Of course you do, if you actually have the disease. Right. So if you actually have the disease, it's going to I had a lady about a month ago. Raise your hand in group. And she said, How long do I have to stay sober before I can have a drink again? That's the same thing you're saying. You know, if I stay off the booze for 80 years, then I can drink again. I can use again if I stay off, look, time does not heal addiction. Time, it doesn't make any difference how long you've been off of it. You know, it doesn't like you can be off of it 17 years or 1,700 years. If you have the disease, you have the disease. The only caveat to that is if God takes it away. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Based on what you say, God take it away from you. God can deliver you from it. You know, we tend to go back to what God doing for us.
We can, yeah.
And then, another question statement. Can you normally do heroin or whatever? Can you take a drink every night? That's a question.
No, that you can't. No.
Because your dopamines are accustomed to being a certain level, right? And one shouldn't take that drink.
Yeah.
That's going to trigger which way your mind normally wants to be. That's the way.
Right.
All right. That's the way, based on what my man was saying.
So his deal was, look, if I'm using heroin or cocaine or something like that, then after a period of time, can I have a drink? No. There's a thing called cross addiction. And if you're addicted to methamphetamines, or if you're addicted to heroin, or you're addicted to cocaine, and you go put some alcohol in your system, what that's going to do is wake up the tetrahydrosequitolin in your brain, and that's going to send you on a tangent to get your own drug of choice. So no, you cannot. Yeah.
What I was saying a while ago, you said 10 to 20. And I lived to be 100. That's 80 years old. It's my demise. I died at 100. I don't believe that I died in a house. But I haven't had a drink in 8 years. Now, just like they say in recovery, I'm a recovery addict. You know what I'm saying? I'm a recovering alcoholic. You know, that's what you want to call it. But I don't feel like if I did 80 years without drinking, I don't still feel like I'm sick of alcoholic.
Okay.
Because God can deliver me.
Okay.
My higher power.
Okay. All right. So here's a challenge for you. He's still, so you guys over at North can understand, he's still saying that time is going to take away his addiction. So here's the deal. 80 years from now, I want you to come back up here. And you and I are going to meet 80 years from now. And then you'll have a beer and I'll have a beer, and we'll see if that messes up our.
I'm not going to say no more. I'm saying I've been delivered from this. You ain't started delivering
Right.
from.
So we're going a little bit.
That's why I say, won't he do it? Don't you believe God will do it?
There's a disease and there's a symptom. Now, even in the blue book, it says our brains are not normal. They're the addict's brains, and that's what you're talking about.
Right. And look, we're far afield from, and I know you don't care, but that's fine. So let me just say this. Why do we think those kinds of ways? Why do we even entertain those types of thoughts? That if I don't drink for 80 years, when I die, I'm not going to be an alcoholic. Why do we think that way? As addicts, why do we do that? Why do we entertain those thoughts? There's a possibility somewhere down the line that I might be able to. And at some point,
So you say
I have been sober. Yeah, I've been sober now for 10 years. I know, use again. And you can't. I know you're going to say the same thing over again, 80 years.
No. Right. But where does recovery come in? Because I'm working the steps. And, I'm working the steps, the 12 steps. I'm in recovery, right?
Right.
Okay. And I work the 12 steps from the age of 20 to 100. Now, I've been working these steps for 80 years. I'm serious.
Here's the deal, where does recovery come in? Recovery doesn't mean that you're healed. Recovery means you're living with your addiction well.
It's in remission.
It's in remission, perhaps. You're living with your recovery well. Just like somebody who has cancer, who is living with their recovery well. Just like somebody who has PTSD is living in their recovery well. And us, from this disease, we're living in our recovery well. So, number 3 says, making the decision to put your life in the hands of your greater power. I'm going to put my life in the hands of have you done that?
Yeah.
And when we say in AA, hey, look, the group can be your higher power, or the doorknob can be your higher power. Can you imagine putting your life, the big book says, my life and my will over to my higher power. I happily turn my life and my will over to the Lord Jesus, but I'm not going to turn my life and my will over to you guys. I'm just not. That makes no sense to me. And I'm not going to even try to turn my life and my will over to the doorknob. But if having and using the doorknob as my higher power gets me into the group, or using the group as my higher power gets me into the group, then that's a good and viable option, right? Because it gets me into the group. And my boss years and years ago, I've told y'all this before, but my boss years and years ago told me, I was telling a group, I don't believe in the higher power being a group, I don't believe in the doorknob being my higher power. And he pulled me off the side and said, don't do that. That when I came into the group, I didn't have anything to do with God. I was mad at God for letting all this stuff happen to me. And then, I used the doorknob. And 10 years after that, I found the Lord Jesus, and now he's a deacon in the Episcopal Church. So you can't, there's people coming into the groups every day that have a problem with the God thing. And so we need to let them have their out. And, like I said, it's not a church. We're trying to get people into recovery.
Amen.
Yeah. So, and it says, look, and by the same token, it's not a church. We're not trying to get people saved, sanctified, sliding into heaven. But I will never deny the Lord Jesus Christ wherever I am. So if I'm in the group, if I'm in my AA group and they already know it, all of that kind of stuff, they say, okay, you need to get a higher power. Okay, they know who my higher power is. And I'll be ready and willing to share my higher power and my beliefs with anybody that wants to hear them. And we don't do it, out like this, but, if you want to know something about my higher, come see me afterwards, we'll talk. So we need to take an honest, fearless, moral inventory of ourselves. Okay.
I didn't agree with what I was going to say. And on the third step, I do know that there's a prayer that goes with every step.
Yeah.
I learned to recite the third step prayer. And I used to do that every day. But getting back in that group, I didn't know if everybody knew there was a third step prayer.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if everybody knew there's a third step prayer. There's a third step prayer. You can look that up. But we're going to take a fearless, moral inventory of ourselves. Where does spirituality come in that?
Moral inventory part.
Yeah, the moral. And I want to look and see what my values are. I'm going to look and see what my morality is. I just had a discussion with a young man who was talking to me about, I hate to bring it up, but he was talking to me about renting a girl for the night and stuff like that. I'm not going to tell y'all who that was, but, look, if you're thinking about moral inventory, we're going to look at the place where we have been our lowest. Right? Where we have been at the bottom. We're going to look at those places. We're going to take a moral inventory of ourselves. Is there a place morally that I need to move? What's the best way to move morally?
Not to go back to the old game.
Yeah, go back to your old belief? Not to go back to your old belief? My idea is that the best way to move yourself forward morally is get some help from a higher power. You ain't going to be able to do that much by yourself. Because I'm telling you, you have appetites, you have lust, you have all of these other kind of things in your life, and you're just not going to be able to deal with them on your own. You need some help to do that, right? And so that's where we get to that spiritual place with that step. Pretty simple. And here's the deal. Number 5 says, admitting the wrongs you've committed to your higher power, to yourself, and to another human being. It's pretty easy to see spirituality in that, right? I'm going to be talking to my God. Bible tells us that if you will repent of your sins and talk to the Lord about them, he is just to forgive you of those sins. That's why he went to the cross, so he could forgive you of those sins. So all of those things that I've done in the past, and the things I'm doing now, and the things I'm going to do in the future, he's already forgiven me for all of that stuff. So, but we need to have a higher power that we can take that to. Can you take that to the group? Yeah, you can. You can stand up here in front of the group and tell the group everything that you've done, how nasty you've been, all of that stuff. You can do that. Will the group judge you at all?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Every one of them sitting there is going to judge you. Will God judge you? No. He's going to listen to you. He's going to comfort you. He's going to let you know, look, you're already forgiven. He did that years ago. Your higher power, if it's not Jesus, whatever it is probably not going to yell at you about it either. But this also says we need to tell that to another human being.
That should be your sponsor, right?
That could be your sponsor. It could be your spouse. It could be your sober support group. It could be just just so that you take the time to do what you're supposed to do. Now, I will tell you this, that having a sponsor is a really wonderful thing if you're using that person as a sponsor and not as a buddy, not as a friend, not as a Uber driver. What's the sponsor supposed to do?
Correct.
What is he?
Correct.
Direct you?
Yeah, you know what I mean? This is correct you, give you some advice.
Yeah, they can do that. They can do that. They can, and usually what they're supposed to do is lead you through the 12 steps, help you with a study of the 12 steps, do that kind of stuff, give you a little bit of advice, tell you what worked for them.
Right.
May not work for you, but this is what worked for me. It might work. It might work for you. So, stuff like that. They are not your Uber driver. If my sponsee calls me and says, hey, I'm at the bar, come get me. No way. No way. Go, you need to get out of there, find you a meeting. It's already way late for you. I'm not going to put my recovery at risk going into the bar to get you. Not going to do that. That's not what it's about. So, come on. It says in number 6, allowing yourself to be ready for your higher power to remove the wrongs you admitted to in the previous steps. We did a lot of stuff in the previous steps. Now what I'm doing is asking my higher power to remove all those defects of character. We have some defects of character. The fact is we have a disease, and it's a shame-based disease. The fact that we have this disease doesn't mean that we should be ashamed of ourselves. Anytime you've got a disease, it's a disease, right? And we shouldn't be ashamed of the fact that we have a disease, although our disease has caused us to do some shameful stuff in the past, right? Most of us, not all of us. There's people who've done some crazy stuff. You got DWIs. I've got my DWIs and stuff like that in the past, and that was all shameful stuff. Everything I've stolen. I've done all kinds of stuff, slept under house. I've done all sorts of stuff that's shame-based back there. But that don't mean I live in shame now because I've turned it over to my higher power. Right? You say, look, we got to be ready to do that. And here's the deal. Here's my quandary. I need to know that my higher power can, in actuality, remove these defects of character. You guys, I love every one of you. I think you're fantastic beings. I think you're wonderful guys, except for a couple of people in here. No, I love everybody. But here's the deal. You have no way. There's nothing you can do about my defects of character. Can you? You can't do anything about that. You can acknowledge them. You can know I got them. You can look at me ugly about them, but you can't take them away from me. You can't do that. How many people know I'm a liar? I lie. I do. I mean, you do too, but I do. That's a defect of character.
Put them donuts in.
Say it again?
Put them donuts in.
Put them donuts. See, I lied about this donut. Yeah. See, you ain't left yet. That's what I'm waiting on. You to leave. And I won't have to buy you the donut. And I will tell you, y'all know the real reason I haven't given you a donut yet?
Gotta be.
Because I love you, man. And that donut's nothing but sugar and bread, and that's just going to kill you. And I noticed you're already smoking, and you're already eating Pop-Tarts. You're dang near death already. So, you know, yes, sir.
What happens if that
3 Dr. Peppers by 10:45. If it's 10:45, our boss in there has probably done had 12 Coca-Cola. So that's really, really, I don't drink any sodas at all. They're really, really bad for you. Really bad for you, especially Dr. Peppers.
well, it sure is good.
Oh, terrible. They're terrible. So, allowing yourself to get ready for God to remove those things, or for your higher power to remove the wrongs you admitted to in a previous step. Here's the deal. It's a spiritual thing, because if you're going to allow your higher power to remove those things from you, you have to believe that your higher power is. And that's spiritual in nature, right? It is. So look, I'm going to tell you this too. If we look at our own behavior, you notice we have, even here in group, here in the facility, here in the program, we have behaviors that we need to look at. We need to look at those things. If I'm doing things that are not good for me or good for other people, and I'm sitting around saying I have a higher power that's directing my life, you don't know what that's about, because you're still doing the goofy stuff. So you need to deal with it. So it says, look, humbly asking your higher power to remove your shortcomings, to remove our defects of character. I need to know, look, here's a big thing. This is very revelatory to us. When we journal about it. We write all of those things down. Then I know, look, that's a shortcoming that I have. That's a defect of character. I've done that my whole life. It's always been problematic for me, but I've done it my whole life. So I need to do something about it. Right? I need to know what my own shortcomings are. I need to know that before I take it to my higher power. I will tell you this, your higher power already knows what your shortcomings are. You're not going to surprise your higher power by saying, hey, I lie a lot. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. I see that. I lie a whole lot. I do all of this kind. I steal. I went into a store one time, and I was about 7, 8 maybe. And you know how they used to have them big old things of pickles? And I stole me one of them pickles. And it's back in Mississippi when I was about 8 years old. Pickles cost a nickel. So they were a nickel pickle. And, I took that nickel pickle out of there, and I'm trying to walk out of the store with it, and I got caught. The clerk said, well, what you doing? Put that pickle back. Okay. He said, you're caught. So I went back over to the pickle jar, but before I put that pickle in that jar, got all the pickle juice off that pickle I could, and then I dropped it in the jar. And then I left. So if y'all go to one of them places and buy you a pickle out them, it could be the one. They probably bought it about 60-something years ago, so they probably already sold that pickle. I can just see somebody buying that nickel pickle and hating to bite out of it, saying it tastes a little funny.
A guy got arrested on TV. He got caught in the stove eating out the butt of the cornation.
Yeah, they had a thing going around there for a while where people would go in and eat stuff and stuff like that. And people are about as bright as a burnt out light bulb, because they'd be right on YouTube. Watch me eat this.
Yeah.
And then put it back up. And then the police come to their house and say, hey, I saw you on YouTube. You're famous, you idiot. Anyway. Some of this stuff is pretty hard, but we're going to ask God to remove those shortcomings, those defects of character. And then once He's done that, then this is where we get to a place where it's possible to do number 8. After we've done number 7, it's possible for us to do. If we haven't done number 7, it's impossible to do number 8. Because one of the defects of character I have is I'm going to manipulate you. We all have that. I'm going to lie, and I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to steal. I'm going to do all things I can to make sure I get what I need. And then if you get what you need, that's okay. I don't mind. But I'm going to get mine first. Right? So I've got to first take all those defects to my higher power. And I'm not just telling him I have these defects. You got to get a hold of that. I'm not just telling God, look, this is what's wrong with me. I'm saying, take this away from me. And then, here's the deal. Once I tell God, once I ask God, look, take this lying stuff away from me, then I have to walk in realization that he has done that. So if I'm lying and cheating and manipulating and doing all those things now, then I'm doing that on my own. Because God has removed that from me. I don't have to do that. I don't need to do that. It's not a requirement of my psyche to do that now. It's gone. It's gone. So now I'm confident and I'm powerful and I'm positive. So it says, look, number 8 says, making a list of all the persons who have harmed and become willing to make amends with them. Who did you harm? That's real spiritual. You're gonna need God to help you do that. Who did you harm? Who's the first person you think you harmed? Yourself. Yeah. That was the first person I put on my list, and that was easy. Boom. Next one, my wife, my children, my grandchildren, my job, society as a whole, and then my next door neighbor whose lawnmower got stolen somehow or another. You know, and the thing went on down. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The guy about the pickle.
Okay.
You put him on that?
Oh, yeah. No, I think the pickle was probably on there, but I didn't have a chance to go make amends to that guy. Because he probably dead by the time I did all that. So, and here's the second, number 9 says, making amends to the people mentioned in the previous step. You know, we write it down. I don't know about you, but I've made 1,000 lists of things I need to do. Yeah, I've made 1,000 lists, at least, of things I need to do. And I haven't done many of them. Some of them I've done. You know, y'all ever made a bucket list? This one, man, I'm going to do this, did it.
Jump out of the plane.
Say it again?
Jump out of the plane.
Yeah, you're going to jump out of a plane? Get you a parachute, I'll fly you. I got to get off the insulin before I do that, but once I get off the insulin, I'll fly you up there, man. As a matter of fact, look, don't overdo it. You don't have to have a parachute. I'll fly you up there. You yeah, don't overdo it. Yeah. I have a friend who's an LCDC as well, and he carries a parachute in the back of his car. It costs about $180 to have an airplane fly you up to the high enough so that you can jump out. And every time he builds up enough money, he runs down and he goes and jumps out. It's just his thing. Yeah, you know. Yeah, I don't be doing that. They go up and they'll land, and it's really good stuff. But we make amends to those people. That's the thing. I've got it all written down, but now I got to go do it. You see, and that's the thing. And one of the things that's helped me get off a little bit, get away a little bit, and I've had to work through that. And I tell God, you know, I'm going to make amends to all of these people whom I've hurt. But, you know, it says, unless it's going to hurt them. And I feel like if I go tell that person over there what I did, it might hurt them. And so I was lying to myself, lying to God. And so I had to go back and say, Lord, look, you need to take that away from me again, and I'm going to go talk to that person. How do you make amends to somebody? What does making amends mean?
Apologizing.
Oh, yeah. We need to apologize. We need to go tell them, this is what I did. I'm deeply sorry for that. But if you wreck my car, now what you going to do? Just going up, hey, man, I'm sorry I wrecked your car. That's not amends. Okay, you're sorry you wrecked my car. Big stinking deal. I still don't have a car. You need to give me your car. You need to have my car fixed. You need to buy me a new car. You need to do something. Well, that's making amends. Okay? I know that because I have done some of those things. So, make amends to the people whenever possible. Sometimes it's not possible. What are you going to do if you need to make amends to your mama and she been dead for 20 years?
You make a living amends.
You make a what? A living amends.
Okay. Just do the next right thing.
Yeah. Do the next right thing. And what I did is write a letter, make an amends, putting everything down that I ever did, and then getting rid of that. You know, that's same like the letter they have us write sometimes to our addiction and stuff like that. But you can't go, you know, I've gone stood in my mama's grave. You know, sorry I was a total butthead. You know, but you can't do that to everybody. There's also some people that if you went and told them, it would destroy their lives. You know, I am really sorry, Johnny, I had sex with your wife.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's not, you know, that's going to destroy. They're still married, they have children, everything's going along well, and you go and drop something like that in their life. Should you do that? No, because who are the amends helping? Me. You know, you might, in some instances, you might help the other person get past something, but for most of it, it's for me. You know, it's getting this stuff out of my life so I can move forward. You know, and sometimes you'll help some other people, but for the most part, it's all about me. So if this is going to hurt that other person just to make me feel better about me, don't do it. Don't do it.
That's why they say it's side of the street. Maybe you make amends if somebody don't accept it, they'll still get your part.
Exactly. You know, and have you ever made amends to somebody and they say, "Get off my porch. Get out of it. Don't ever come." Okay. You did your due diligence, right? You did what you could do, and so you're away. You know. So make those amends. Okay, we're done. Continuing to take personal inventory, improving your contract with your higher power through prayer, meditation, and other spiritual practices, and then passing this lesson on to other people. That's all spiritual. Thank you, guys. We'll be over at North after a while to pick up